Welcome to the Rondinelli project. I'm Mr. R, and step 2 of my Green Sunfish replica class is ready to go. Molding the fins. So why do certain fins need to be removed? That's a great question, and the answer is simple. If I didn't remove the 2 pectoral fins and the 2 pelvic fins from the body of the fish, I wouldn't be able to remove the fish from the molding process without damaging the fins and the mold. So they need to be removed, molded, and cast, then reattached later. And that's exactly what you are about to learn. Step 2, how to create the mold for the fins. So let's go there. So I've taken the fins out of the fridge. This is the left and right pectoral fin, and the bottom ones are the left and right pelvic fins. Now I'm going to do the actual mold creation on this plastic tray. Now you can put your high fiber right on the plastic tray. I use this little fin jig out of cardboard. It just makes the mold a lot neater. Now I'm just going to use my putty knife, and I'm going to grab some high fiber, and I'm going to fill up the rectangle, fill up the space until it's completely full, and that gives you a nice rectangle. I'll clean up the edges, and I spray the high fiber with water. That gives you a nice smooth finish. Just keep working it back till you get it nice and level. Spray it with water and smooth it out, and you're ready to set the fins. Now it doesn't matter what fin you use, but I'm going to start with the left pectoral fin. I use a pair of curved forceps, and you want to be very careful with the fins so you don't rip them. But I use the forceps, put in a high fiber, and I position the fin. I fan them out so that they look really natural, like they're being spread out with the water itself if the fish was underwater. When I'm happy with my position of the actual fin, and these are real thin membrane on the pectoral fins, I'll do the same thing with the right pectoral fin. I'll place that fin on top of the bedding. I'll fan out the fin, make sure it looks natural, make sure it's pushed down into the high fiber, push down the area that's attached to the body. Now I'm going to do the left pelvic fin. Same concept. I'm going to fan out the fin, push down where the fin was attached to the body. That's a little thicker. And repeat the same process with the right pelvic fin. And you just have to take your time in doing this. You don't want to rush the process. Now what I'm going to do next is spray a soft sable brush. You don't want to use a real stiff brush, something soft, and I want to make sure that I get all of the high fiber, clean the fins off. They're very transparent, and I'm just spraying with water the brush, and I'm brushing. Notice how I brush from the center to the outside edge. You don't want to displace the fin once it's set in a high fiber. That's really important. Now I'm going to add my markers, and this of course helps you put the mold back together the right way. And those markers are important for another reason. They're kind of the outside boundary. When you're separating this mold and you're sticking a screwdriver or whatever you're going to use to separate the mold, you don't want to reach in there and disrupt the fins. You want to stay away from that. Dry the fins off with a hairdryer. And you don't want to over dry them, but speed this up. Dry them off, and now you're ready to coat the fins with PVA, polyvinyl alcohol. That's a mold release. So there it is, the mold release. You're not going to use a whole lot. I just pour a little in a cap, and I use a soft bristled brush, very soft. In this step, you're just coating the fin. Brush from the center outward. Once again, you don't want to displace the fin in the high fiber. It's very easy to do that because they're so thin and you don't want to displace them once you have them set in the high fiber. And remember, it's the material that we pour on top that creates the mold image or impression, not what is touching the fin from underneath, not the high fiber. That'll all have to be removed. We'll get to that step in a minute. And once again, once you have the high fiber, you can let these dry naturally. I kind of speed the process up a little bit by using the hair dryer. It's okay to do that. And here I'm using the hair dryer just to kind of rush the drying. Speed that up. Don't overheat the fins or they'll curl on you. Just enough to kind of get them set in place. So what I'm doing now is getting ready to pour liquid resin. I have my scale, I have my paper cup. This is what I use. I usually buy them in 300 packs. I generally use 4 ounce. You can get them in different sizes. Here is our liquid resin. And here is the Bondo filler. And we're going to use a 50-50 mix. Now pay attention to the scale. I don't need a lot for the fin mold. I'm going to put in 5/10. That's half an ounce of the liquid fiberglass resin. So I'll stop when it reaches 5. That's the first half of our 50-50 mix. The other 5/10 will be the Bondo putty, the paste, the thickener. That's what I'm going to add now. And I want to bring that up. To create a 50-50 mix, I need to double that 5/10, so we're going to go to 1 full ounce. And after we reach the 1 full ounce, we need to add our catalyst, our hardeners. So we'll be adding MEKP to the liquid part of it and benzoyl peroxide to the paste. Now, before you add the hardeners, you need to mix it up very well. You're going to mix this for a couple minutes. Speed that up. We're now ready to add the hardeners. That starts the process of setting. About a pea size, since this is a small amount of fiberglass filler, the Bondo, I just add that first and mix that in, and that's going to bond with the Bondo material. And then I'll add 5 drops of MEKP. Remember, gloves, watch your eyes, it's dangerous stuff. Don't want to get that splashed in your eyes, it'll cause blindness. And once you add your MEKP, you've got to mix that very well. Okay, now it's not like it's going to harden in the cup, but if you add too much, it will. That's why. Remember, 1 drop for each 1/10 of an ounce. There we go, covering the fins. And that 1 ounce combination of 50-50 mix does a pretty good job of covering the area without a lot of overflow and spill. The material is starting to get expensive, so you don't want to waste it, but you don't want to fall short either. Okay, here's a nice tip. Take a popsicle stick and you can tap your fiberglass resin to check to see if it's set. If you get that little tappy sound, that's good. Otherwise, if it makes little indentations, it's not quite set. All right, we're going to add our liquid fiberglass, and I'm only going to use half an ounce. It's not much. Once I get to 0.5, I'm going to add 5 drops of MEKP and mix it up very well for like a minute or 2. Probably 2 minutes is good mix, but you want to mix it thoroughly. Off the sides, off the bottom, you want to make sure. Well, there's my 5 drops. Let me be clear, if you accidentally put a couple extra drops in, it's not going to hurt anything. It might just set a little quicker. Don't panic. Really mix it well. If you don't mix it well, you might have a problem with it setting uniformly. It might be set in one area and not set elsewhere. So I'm going to use a chip brush, and I'm going to put a light coating on top of the cured liquid fiberglass. And I'm just adding more liquid fiberglass is all I'm doing, but that's kind of a base to set the fiberglass matting in. The fiberglass matting melts when it comes in contact with the liquid fiberglass, and that's what creates the strength of the mold, like I had mentioned earlier. So there's my fiberglass matting. I just kind of tear some of it off, keep it in a little bin. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to place it on there. The more you put on, the more rigid your mold becomes, and you don't want to overuse it. But you don't want to leave places unstrengthened. That's not a good thing to do because you could break the mold. Now, when it comes to the fin molds, they separate fairly easily, and they're easy to do. Some fish molds are the body fish molds are very difficult to separate. Now, when it's all done, you want to set that aside to dry. There's the acetone. I'm going to clean my brush. Once again, I buy these chip brushes by the case. I don't like to just throw them away. You can get multiple uses out of them by cleaning your brush. So I recommend cleaning your brush. Your supply will last much longer. I get my chip brushes. I used to get them at Walmart. Now they're too expensive, but Harbor Freight's a good place to find them. What I'm going to do now is take the A side of the mold out of my jig that I use to form the rectangle. And you have to separate the high fiber now from the underneath side. Now, I can't stress enough, you have got to take your time, because I know that underneath there are the fins, and it's going to be the exposed side that you're going to pour next. When you find the fin, slow down and go from the center outward. You don't want to displace the fin with your fingers removing the high fiber. Now, you're not going to be able to remove all of it, but you want to get to where you find the fins, and then you've got your roadmap. You can start clearing the high fiber out. You know where the fins are, you know where they aren't, and so you want to get off 95% of the high fiber before you take it to the sink to clean. I found the fins. There you go. I found all 4 fins. I'm going to take my time, clear off all the high fiber. Just take your time. And if you do disrupt a fin, if you pull a fin off, don't panic. At that point, you're going to want to reset the fin, because the indentation, the imprint's already made on the other side of the mold. So you're just going to clean that off really well, soak the fin in water, and then make sure it's good and clean, and you can put the fin back down. It's not the end of the world if you displace a fin, but you don't want to tear the fin, because this is the replica part. See what I'm doing? I'm taking my time. I didn't speed this up because this is critical, and I wanted you to understand exactly what it is you're doing. And see, there's a fin completely cleaned off. I just took this into the sink that I use, my cleaning station for doing this kind of stuff. And the high fiber isn't going to hurt the sink, okay? It's just, if you lose a little bit of high fiber, but most of it can be collected, and when it dries, you can kind of grind it back down into powder. It's like flour. I just collect it and add it back to my tub, and it seems to do just fine. I've never really had to grind any back down. So the whole purpose of this is to get the surface cleaned off so that you can then pour side B of your mold. And I've done that. You can see the fins are in place. The PVA kind of acts like a glue. Now, just take your excess high fiber and put it back in your collection tub and put the lid back on it. And I always spray the top of mine with some water. If it becomes too thick or too heavy, just add more water and mix it up really well. You can mix it to any consistency that you like. You can get too much water in it, and then it just kind of runs everywhere. So that's the high fiber for this project. Okay, now, once again, I'm just making sure. See, I wanted to demonstrate that the fins can move. This one displaced a little bit, and I need to just kind of spread it out again. Okay? I'm just kind of making sure everything is in the imprint that's underneath before I pour the top. Because if you don't, the top material is going to fill in that space and it'll ruin the detail. So dry it with a hairdryer. Don't over dry, and that will set the fins in there quite well. And I'm doing that getting ready for the PVA. Now, the PVA, the polyvinyl alcohol, on this side of the mold is the fins plus the surface of side A. You want to coat everything. So I'm going to coat the fin. Once again, go from the center outward, or however you decide to place your fins in your bedding. Just make sure you go from where it's attached to the body outward. Follow the lines on the rays of the fin and cover your mold, especially cover your mold markers. Just makes it real easy to separate. Fin molds separate very easily. They're not difficult, like some fish bodies. Some fish bodies are very difficult. There's not a lot of surface area. Dry it off with a hairdryer. Remember, don't over dry. You don't want to curl the fins. Now we're ready to finish up our mold. Same process as before. Paper cup, I'm going to do 1/2 ounce, so it's 0.5. And remember, this is a 50-50 mix, so the other 5/10 will be the Bondo paste. So you put that in there, and once you get to 10, you stop, mix it very well. Mix the two together without the catalysts, without the hardeners. Around 1.5 to 2 minutes when it's mixed well. Then add your catalyst, MEKP. It doesn't matter what order, but MEKP or the paste. And then mix the two very well off the sides and the bottom. When it's a uniform color and you're convinced that everything is mixed well, you can then go ahead and pour. Some people use a brush. I sometimes use a brush, but I've kind of done the pour method now on fins because I don't want to displace them and have any material run underneath. An underrun will destroy your mold. Then our tip, tap it. It's slippery, it taps, it's done without any marks. Now I'm going to use just a little bit of liquid resin, 1/2 ounce, 5 drops of MEKP to start the hardening process. Mix it up real well. Coat the surface of side B. There's my chip brush that I cleaned. I'm going to coat this and then add my fiberglass matting. And once that's all done, I'm going to make sure you get the whole surface. Add the fiberglass. And of course, the fiberglass matting will melt, creating strength when it sets. Once again, if it's real humid and if it's real humid or cooler, it takes a little longer for it to set. And if it gets real hot, it might set a little sooner. Just an FYI. Now, once everything's set, I take it to my jigsaw, and I apologize. I moved this and I don't have it locked down, so it's kind of vibrating around, and I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to cut the edges. And the reason I do this, and you don't have to, you could do this by hand if you have a pair of tin snips or whatever, but I do this to make a nice smooth edge so I can find the seam of the mold, and then it's easier to separate. Now that I've finished trimming the edges off and everything's set, I'm going to just take a small screwdriver, I'm going to find the seam and then just kind of rotate the screwdriver to start opening it up. And on a fin mold, you just keep working around. It will separate very easily. You just don't want to push in too far. The fins are destroyed now, so once it pops open, there it opened up. You're going to now remove those dried out fins. And we're going to take it to the cleaning station and just clean the mold very well. which is what I'm doing here. Take a little Dawn, spray it on, take an old toothbrush. I save toothbrushes for that reason. And clean all of the rays and get as much out. And if you have to use a needle or something to get something loose, it's okay to do that. Clean both sides of the mold, including the markers. I'll do the exact same thing for the other side. A little bit of spray. I just use cold water or lukewarm water. You don't want to use too hot of water, it'll soften up the mold. Once it's all done, your fin mold is complete and you have a complete set of fins, just like that for the Green Sunfish. And I'll take a magic marker on the outside and actually mark it. Green Sunfish fins. That's how I mold the fins. And I'd like to add, you can, if you like, include the fins in the body mold. It does save materials and time, but I separated steps 1 and 2 because it's much easier to explain the process to people that way. In the next video, I will demonstrate how to cast the body for the Green Sunfish. I'm Mr. R, and this is the Rondinelli Project, where you can learn fish artistry and create your own fish art. Class dismissed.